Hello, Regis Gilbin is the name, and Here's the Storm is the game. And today I'm going to be talking about my Twilight Malfurion build. This is a way to play Malfurion that's not all about healing like you might suspect, but it's really all about doing damage. You might be surprised, but Malfurion, who is talented the correct way, can do a surprising amount of damage. Now, I must admit, this is not a build that's going to be great in Hero League. It's not particularly competitive, but if you're looking for a fun way to finish off some support quests or surprise people in a quick match setting, then this build for Malfurion might just be perfect for you. I've seen people play this Malfurion build, and I played it myself, and more often than not, you'll be surprised that you finish number one on hero damage if you play this build to its maximum potential. That's right, you can beat mages and assassins with this build more often than you might think. So, without further delay, let's talk about the talents of the Twilight Malfurion build. Let's just run through these real fast before we discuss them all in more detail. At level 1, we're going to go with Moonburn. Level 4, Vengeful Roots. Level 7, Strangling Vines. Level 10, Twilight Dream. Level 13 is Full Moonfire. 16, we're going to go with Lunar Shower. And finally, at level 20, we're going to go with Rewind. So, how do you get the most out of these talents, and why are we picking each of them for this high damage Malfurion build? At level 1 with Moonburn, this increases the damage of your W effect, Moonfire, to minions and mercenaries by 100%. So admittedly, this won't do much against enemy heroes, since it doesn't impact Moonfire's damage against heroes at all, but it is pretty fantastic when you need to pull off some surprising wave clear or clear a merc camp that might be in your way. It makes Malfurion a little bit more like a mage, like Kael'thas or Jaina, who's really good at wave clear as well as doing damage. So it gives him that extra little bit of utility and can often make you lead the damage charts on siege damage, not just hero damage. At level 4, Vengeful Roots. This gives your Entangling Roots ability a Treant that does 140 damage per second at level 20, and he lasts for 10 seconds. That means your Treant hits for 1140 damage as long as he has targets. We can see him in action here on these forts. You can see he's hitting for 140, and Malfurion himself is hitting for 147, so it's about 300 damage for every attack there with Malfurion, which, isn't bad at all when you count those two together. Vengeful Roots does a surprising amount of damage. If that Treant sticks on somebody and just keeps pinging them, they don't tend to notice that it's there, so they don't burn it down or try to avoid it. And before they realize it, they've had 1,000 hit points taken off the total, which is huge when, most heroes have somewhere around 4,000 to 4,500 health. So a Treant alone might do like 25% of a hero's health total. Maybe even 33% if it's a mage like Jaina or Vala, or a really weak, squishy assassin. At level 7, we're also going to buff our Strangling Vines, our Entangling Roots ability, this time with the talent Strangling Vines. Entangling Roots deals 100% more damage, so it does 255. Normally, this means it will be doing 510 damage. So we can see here when we cast it on well, it needs to hit a minion here. You'll see it's hitting for 170 per tick there over a number of different ticks, so it does tend to add up. And 100% bonus is a lot when you factor in the rewind that we're going to hit at level 20, but also just the fact that Entangling Roots is best used when you're trying to burst someone down along with your teammate. So when you catch them in the root effect and they're stuck, your team typically targets that person that has been rooted, meaning that between your Entangling Roots doing twice as much damage and all the other burst spells that they're going to take while trapped in that circle, and with your Treant hitting them as well, suddenly you have a lot of damage stacking up, and it's a great way to pick off an opponent, lock them down, and just sneak out a quick kill against someone who was unsuspecting of a Malfurion doing so much damage already at level 7. So then at level 10, we're going to go with the damage-based Twilight Dream. This has a 90-second cooldown, but it's a pretty fantastic heroic that after a short delay does 820 damage in a large area, silencing enemies and making them unable to use abilities for 3 seconds. It's a little bit redundant there in the description, but 820 damage is a pretty huge burst in a large area of effect. You can see the circle there. It does a damage to people pretty far away and makes you a scary threat in a team fight when you can hit everybody for nearly 1,000 damage and silence in, meaning there's no heals, there's no damage coming back your way, there are no escapes being used for 3 seconds, setting you up for a pretty big swing in any team fight that you happen to get this off. Your team can use Twilight Dream pretty well if they build around it and focus people down once it's been used. Sylvanas' silence is considered one of the most powerful heroics in the game, and has a much shorter area of effect, just a much smaller area of effect than does Twilight Dream. So you can see why Twilight Dream is really so powerful if you're able to dive right in the middle of that team and hit 3 or 4 heroes inside that circle. You can definitely swing fights and even games all on its own. At level 13, we're going to go with Full Moonfire. This increases Moonfire's radius by 60%, and it reduces the mana cost by 50%. So this sets up a scenario with our level 13 and level 16 talents where we just get to Moonfire spam. This reduces its mana cost, and it's already very cheap at 20 mana. But also makes its circle so big. You can see how huge the Moonfire circle is here. You can reach stuff that's very, very far away using the outside edge of that circle. And you can hit, 3 things here on the siege damage, but often multiple heroes and a minion wave can be caught in there as well. So that extra radius may not seem like it does extra damage, but it actually does, over the course of a long match, add up to quite a bit of extra damage you sneak out just because that increased area of effect size. And more importantly, it sets up really neat combos with our level 16 talent, Lunar Shower. With Lunar Shower, using Moonfire reduces the cooldown of your next Moonfire by 0.5 seconds and increases its damage by 15%. And this effect stacks up to 3 times over 6 seconds. So you can see this in action. Let's turn off our cooldowns. So note that Moonfire normally has a 3-second cooldown, which is already very short. But watch what happens when we cast multiple Moonfires in a row. That was a little over 2 seconds. Suddenly our Moonfires are just about 1.5 seconds. You can just spam Moonfire all day. And it's hitting for 334 damage, which is really pretty significant when it's happening basically once every 1.5 seconds or so. That adds up very fast, especially if you hit multiple heroes with it. So suddenly Moonfire becomes a damage spell that's something to be reckoned with and can put the fear into enemy teams when you're casting it that often, just constantly spamming Moonfire very efficiently and pinging them for 300 health each time. It doesn't take too many Moonfires to weaken an opponent or an entire enemy team. So those 2 talents together can be pretty insane and make you a boomkin, if you're familiar with that term from World of Warcraft. And finally, at level 20, we're going to go with Rewind. The reason we take Rewind here is because it really is the only thing that enables you to do extra damage. These other talents all have nice little uses. Nightmare, for instance, makes your heroic a little better. Storm Shield is defensive in nature. Bolt of the Storm can be used aggressively, but typically is a defensive ability that helps you escape easily. Rewind, on the other hand, gives you a lot of potential. Not only can you sneak out a couple extra heals after rewinding and getting off 2 regrowth, which might be nice from time to time, you can also cast multiple tree ants. We got 2 trees hitting at once here, each for 140. You can also use it to reset your Moonfire, but that won't be happening too often or be too necessary just because the cooldown is going to be so short already. But getting off 2 tree ants and 2 entangling roots is actually really significant because you can lock down 2 heroes or cover a huge area of effect with that root that it has, meaning it's very hard for an enemy to escape. If you time it in the right moments, you can almost certainly capture an enemy in a root guaranteed and set up a kill for you or your team. When you stack that with your Moonfire damage, which takes up almost the entire area of effect of your roots, then suddenly you can see why this build has a lot of internal synergies and can do so much damage. Like I said before, if you play this build well and use it to its full potential, you might just top the hero damage charts as the healer Malfurion. But you're not the healer Malfurion this time around, you're the Twilight Malfurion, the high damage Malfurion that's surprising everyone and topping the charts. I think this build is really one of the most fun builds in the game, just because you get to take a hero and turn him on its head and do something completely different than people are expecting. I like playing it in quick match from time to time. You can still heal with it if you absolutely have to and win games that way. It's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. Good luck out there trying it out. And until next time, game on.